Hi, my name is Tjoa, and today I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to talk to you about perceptions of Africa. This is something that affects every single one of us in this room, yet you may not understand that or realize, how does Africa affect me? And I want to start with a story. And that's the story of John Green over the summer. Now, a lot of you probably know who John Green is. He's very famous as an author, wrote The Fault in Our Stars, which was a very popular movie over the summer. He's also very famous on the internet, but even if you don't know him, the point still stands. Anyways, John went to Africa, Ethiopia more specifically, over the summer in order to understand health infrastructure with Bill Gates and how neonatologists are lowering infant mortality rate. And that's something really important because Africa has always had a much higher infant mortality rate than the rest of the world. And he went in the summer, which was in the middle of the Ebola outbreak, which I'm sure everyone in here is aware about. It was something scary. It's something that not a lot of us understood at the beginning. And basically, what happened with John is he came back from this trip to Ethiopia, and within 3 days he was sick. And I know what most people in here are thinking. I know what I was thinking, is that he has Ebola. And that was like, oh shoot. And this turned out to show a lot of his fans, me included, and the media's ignorance on just basic geography of Africa. Because if you look on the top, that is where John Green was, and that was the heart of the Ebola outbreak in Sierra Leone, and that is the United Kingdom to Afghanistan, and it's the same distance. It's 3,500 miles. You wouldn't be concerned if there was an outbreak in London for troops deployed in Afghanistan, yet people were terribly frightened for John Green getting Ebola when he was the same distance away. And what turned out happening with John was he had contracted viral meningitis from Orlando, Florida. And it really just showed my own ignorance on the issue and caused me to research deeper, because if we can't understand basic geography about Africa, how can we be expected to know the complexity of their issues they face? And the way we do understand these issues is to look historically, back to the late 1800s. And what you see here is progress. You see cities like Lagos, you see cities like Johannesburg or Cairo, and these are cities that look like American cities from the outset. And if I just showed you a picture, you would be like, yeah, that's a great city. It looks like an American city. But our perception of Africa is that they're somehow uncivilized or savage, or that we need to go in and save Africa. And admittedly, Africa does have problems, but pictures like this show the progress that Africa is already making. And the problems stem from what was known as the scramble for Africa in the late 19th century or 1800s. And basically, this is a time where imperialist thoughts were at their highest. Obviously, this is right before the outbreak of World War I, which was caused mostly by imperialist and nationalist ideals. In this bottom political cartoon, you can see the European leaders cutting off what can be described as the cake or the pie of Africa. And that's really what happened. These countries, these Western powers, were looking to one-up their competition in order to gain power, to gain economic strength, to flex their military muscle, so to speak. And this is notable in the Congo, which was conquered by Belgium and Leopold II. A lot of you may not know who Leopold II actually is. And that's a tragedy because many people in the Congo would consider him their Stalin, or someone of that level, because he committed numerous human rights violations, exploiting the people, exploiting them for work, exploiting them for their ivory and their rubber, and has left the Democratic Republic of the Congo in a state that is still despicable today. That's just one example. An example that may hit closer to home for us is the United Kingdom's colonization of Nigeria. Now, Nigeria is the classic example of European colonization. What they did was, as you can see, Nigeria is on the right. The borders of Nigeria are where we start, because borders in Africa are not where they should be. Borders in Africa were set up based on where one person's territory ended and another's began. And it split up ethnic tribes, which causes interdivision within their government, which is why it's so hard to efficiently govern an African country. But the bigger problem comes with infrastructure, health infrastructure, transportation infrastructure. This map on the right is of Nigeria and their railroad system. Now, if any of you know anything about Nigeria, you know it has a ton of oil. they have so much of it that it can be considered a resource curse in that their economy is entirely reliant on it. And the blue triangles, which are kind of hard to see, but those are oil rigs, and the blue lines are the railroads. And when you're refining oil, that's where the money is. Not in the crude oil, but in the refining process, because no one can do anything with crude oil. With processed oil, you can, work planes and cars and everything. And if you look at how these railroads are set up by the United Kingdom, you can see that the railroads just shoot straight to the coast, because the plan was to send it back up to the United Kingdom, to Denmark, to the Netherlands, in order to refine it. Nigeria's transportation infrastructure is entirely messed up because now, after decolonization after World War II, they are left with this infrastructure and having to export all their oil to refine it. You can see there's an orange line. That's their single refinery, their number one resource. Their gross domestic product, which is an economic indicator, is suffering because they can't refine the oil and truly make a profit off of it. These are pictures of health infrastructure. On the left is Ethiopia, and on the right is Sierra Leone. These are places where things like malaria, things like Ebola, AIDS, other diseases like that, polio, measles, these kill thousands, some of those diseases, millions of people, and this is the infrastructure they work with. Neonatologists trying to save kids after birth, and they can't do it efficiently because, as John Green said in one of his videos talking about his experiences, the entire country of Ethiopia, which is 14th in population, has the same number of neonatologists as the entire city of Indianapolis, Indiana. They can't effectively save their children because they don't have the personnel to do so. And then you can also see some Ebola procedures. And what happened, the reason Ebola spread so easily in Africa and why it was so well contained in America is because Ebola is a disease that is mostly spread by fluids. And when you don't have proper infrastructure or proper equipment, it becomes much easier to spread. And that's what's happening in Africa. Africa is still experiencing the effects of the outbreak, yet we seem to have turned a blind eye to it at home because, it doesn't affect us anymore. We contained it effectively. Now you may be wondering, I've been up here and I've been spouting out a lot of facts, a lot of history, and explaining why Africa has the problems they do. But you may be wondering, how can we effectively solve these problems, which is the main thing. And the effective way to solve these problems comes through developing infrastructure and guiding these countries rather than micromanaging. Charities like Charity Water, or Save the Children, or the Gates Foundation. These are charities that are building health infrastructure within the countries. And governing bodies like the United Nations can help develop these governments. And it's truly important that we do this because the world is always globalizing. 50 years ago, there was no one would have had any idea that the internet would have been so prevalent, that mass media would have been so prevalent, or things like better transportation. And we're truly reliant on these countries in ways we never have been before. If you want chocolate from Nigeria, or rubber from the Ivory Coast, or sugar from Angola, we have to understand the complexity of these issues. And adding on to the points about poor health infrastructure, these are the leading causes of death in Africa. Originally, this was published by someone who was trying to show the insignificance of the Ebola outbreak. As you can see, Ebola is circled down there at the bottom as 5,100 deaths. But look at the millions or thousands of deaths by HIV or AIDS, respiratory infection, diarrhea, things we can prevent. Things that if our children were dying by the millions, we wouldn't stand for. It's this empathy for other human beings and seeing them not just as resources to take advantage of, but as people to help and to bring into the 21st century. And it's numbers like these that can truly show the scope of the issues in Africa. And this complexity shouldn't scare us away. The issues aren't easy to solve. There's no quick fix to Africa. But truly, if we work together and we develop their infrastructure, we can truly make a better Africa and in turn a better global community. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this, it's that Africa is not so different than us. It's not an us versus them issue. It's a people issue. It's an issue of whether or not we're going to help these countries come into the 21st century and in turn make a better global community for everyone. Thank you.